Happy Monday, everyone. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about childcare, one of our experts. But first, I had to brag just a little bit, Jermaine. I got to brag just a little bit. Yeah. I went to Friday night. I went to the Brewers and Reds game. I'm a huge Reds fan, being from Ohio. Baby. I got a foul ball.
You got one?
I got it. And actually, I have to say thanks to the guy that was behind me, because he had actually leaned over me and got the ball. He was the row behind me and leaned over me. And then he ended up giving it to me. He said, "Here you go."
So where was you sitting at?
13th row behind the visitors' dugout.
And that was the walk-off game, right?
Yeah. So it was a little heartbreaking for my Reds, but
boo the Reds. Let's go, Brew. Let's go, baby.
I just had to give that plug in there a little bit. Yeah. So like I said, great show today. We're going to talk a little bit about childcare. We have a great guest on the line today, call-in guest. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am good.
Great. My name's Joe Dre. I'm the policy director for Wisconsin Voices. We're still waiting on Brian to make his grand entrance into the studio this morning, but that's just how he rolls sometimes. But I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off. Maybe you could tell us a little, who you are, a little bit about yourself, and a little bit about your organization.
Sure.
Did we lose her?
No, I'm good. So you want me just to start?
Yeah. Go ahead. If you could tell us who you are and a little bit about your organization and about yourself.
Okay. Hey, thank you for having me today. I am Corrine Hendrickson. I am a family child care provider in New Glarus, Wisconsin, and I'm on my 18th year. I'm also a co-founder of a grassroots movement of children, families, parents, and child care professionals, along with community members and business owners, called Wisconsin Early Childhood Action Needed. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to dig in a little bit here right off the bat. And can you kind of explain the difference between daycares, preschools, and other types of child care programs, and maybe what you're familiar with?
Sure. So daycare is an old, outdated use of words, because we don't care for days, we care for children. So it's child care is what we prefer to be called. And child care and preschool really are the same thing, because we all care for and educate young children. But child care then go all the way up to the age of 12 and do start at the age of 6 weeks, where preschools tend to be more focused on 3s and 4s and 5-year-olds. But as far as rules and ratios and things go, if you're licensed under the Department of Children and Families, it's all the same. We all have the same access to the same types of support systems. We have access to the same sorts of technical assistance and mentoring and things like that, as long as we're regulated.
Fantastic. And can you tell us, what role does child care play in a child's early development?
Well, a lot. Most people don't realize this, but over 90% of brain development happens in those first 5 years. But that brain development doesn't happen in a silo. So children's brains won't just naturally develop unless they actually feel safe and they feel confident and they feel secure, and they need to have that adult caring relationship in their lives in order to do so. And so that's why it's so important for us to really also look at what is quality, what is safety, how do we keep children as healthy as possible, including their mental health. And so looking at how we fund child care is completely not funded correctly. And a lot of the solutions that people are suggesting is that we should just take on more children because, that brings in more money. But they're not understanding that brain development only happens with relationships and caring relationships. And if one adult has 4 babies, they can't really have that caring relationship that the children need, and the children's needs aren't being met when they need to be met. And to try and say that more children would be better makes it so that those same children then will not be able to develop to their fullest potential. Also, child care, we are trained in child development, and we are partners with parents. So a lot of times, I'm noticing over my 18 years, parents now have had less experience with children. Fewer of them have babysat, fewer of them have younger siblings, fewer of them have played with other kids in multi-age groups when they were younger growing up, and they just don't have the experience, so they don't know how to basically raise their their children. And it kind of is interesting to me that people will take classes to learn how to be better dog parents. Or we have all these rules and regulations about, people adopting dogs, but yet at the same time, you have a child and the hospital gives the child to you, the baby, and they let you go home without any sort of support system or anything like that. So really looking at the lack of knowledge and the lack of understanding and the lack of appreciation for what those first 5 years are for that child's life has put us in the situation that we're in right now.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We are actually, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next question. I thought we had Brian there for a second, but I guess we don't. What are some of the benefits to investing in high quality education and early childhood education programs?
So some of the benefits are that parents can go to work. That's the first and foremost thing that most people think of. And young children need to be in a safe, caring place for their parents to be able to leave them and go to work and concentrate on their jobs at work or go to school. Or even a lot of times we have parents that are stuck in the middle and they have to care for their elderly parents and other people like that. So childcare is, number one, a place for children to go to when their parents cannot take care of them. But secondly, that investment in childcare is also an investment in their education. It is creating the entire foundation for that brain development, and it is also preventing these children from going into the preschool to prison pipeline is actually more prevalent than even the school to prison pipeline. Because if we're not supporting these kids when they're in poverty and having adverse experiences, then we're spending more money later. Same thing, if you want to help get rid of diabetes and other mental health and your health or your heart problems, it starts in early childhood with supporting them in their growth and not having toxic stress all the time. And so it also helps save us money. The return on investment is generally anywhere from $12 to $17 is the accepted amount. So for every dollar we spend early on, we save 17 later. However, some of the newer research is showing like $23 for every dollar. So Washington, D.C. invested in increasing the wages for the teachers that care for and educate the children, and they are seeing a 23% return on that investment, with more parents being able to work, children doing better, children getting identified with special needs earlier, so they have early intervention, which again costs less money. And so really that's all of our society requires children to be cared for. And if people want people to have children, we need to make sure that they can afford to do so. And so really, I always talk about childcare as the spoke in the middle of the wheel, and that from us, everything else in our community will prosper if we take care of the adults taking care of the children.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to throw it to my co-host, Brian Sanders here.
Hey, what's going on? Hey. Happy Monday, y'all. Good morning. And thanks you, Corrine. Yeah, thanks for getting, just communicating through me through email and just getting this interview together. And thank you for, sharing your organization and, the need and how important it is. With Corrine online, we do have in studio, we do have two more people as well. And I just want them to introduce themselves and we can let them know a little bit about, or let them get to the city. Tell the folks who you are and what you do here in Milwaukee. So let's go ahead. Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first.
And good morning to you, ladies, by the way. Thank you for coming.
Good morning.
Yeah.
My name is Nicole Brown. I am with KinderCare Learning Companies. I've been in the field 26 years. A little bit about my company is KinderCare has been leading child care for over 50 years. It was founded in 1969. We have probably over 2,000 doors nationwide. It is a corporate school, so it's not a private owned preschool child care center. I said I've been in the field 26 years, and I spent probably 20 years in the private sector. When I got to corporate, it is a lot different than the private sector, and I enjoy doing it.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks for sharing. All right. Next up, who do we have here?
I am Bianca Hill, Executive Director for KinderCare Christian Child Care Center, located in the Milwaukee area. I'm just giving my intro. We are the most phenomenal child care center in the nation. Argue with me if you want to. I have also been in the field for about 25 years in various capacities, from family child care to groups, to working at a group center. Very passionate about educating the community, just all children, but most importantly, my community, and making sure that our children here in Milwaukee are also receiving high quality care. So thus I continue to do the work and advocate for early care.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So Joe, I know you was getting started with some questions.
Yeah, I'll continue on.
You was kind of knocking them out. So, I'll come in a little later, but go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, and any of our guests that, want to chime in and answer, please feel free to. But can you kind of explain a little bit about the current state of childcare access in Wisconsin?
That would be me. Okay.
Any one of you.
Childcare in Wisconsin, and Corrine can speak also to the up there where she is, but childcare in Wisconsin is it's all over the place, but for the most part, because we don't have funding. So some of us, she's fortunate to have a what do you call it? A franchise business, more people, more funding behind her. But some of us who are just operating small businesses, independent and nonprofit, it's horrible for us because we are not receiving any funding. Wisconsin does not have any investment into the early child care sector. The state does a match for a grant that they receive from federal, but Wisconsin is not investing in their children, their earliest learners, the most vulnerable population.
And then I would also say the current state that we are in is that we have staffing shortages. People that live in rural areas, they're affected because there's not very many child care centers out there in those rural areas. Our biggest thing, and then we have waiting lists, and we have classrooms because we have waiting lists that we can't fill because of the staff shortages to come into the centers and work. Myself, even though I am a corporate center, I've been blessed to have a staff that I am fully staffed. I'm still hiring, but I've been blessed, and my staff that I have are tenured staff. My AD has been there 25 years. I have teachers that have been there 20 years, 19 years. And I think that a lot of centers, especially in our inner city, I think a lot of it is because with the staff shortages, because a lot of those centers can't offer benefits versus my corporation, we offer our employees benefits. So that helps. But I think that the state needs to pour a little bit more money into early childhood education. They really do, because not only are our teachers suffering, our kids are suffering, the parents are suffering because we don't have the staff to take their kids. I've had a lot of my sister schools, they've had to turn families away because they just don't have the staff. And I think the number one problem is staff. I think if we can get a fully trained staff.
That was one of my questions I was going to go into. Yeah. What is that looking like when it comes to, qualifications within, in our area? And, Corrine, I'd like to hear it as well. But how's the qualifications, from, in the city of Milwaukee? What are you seeing? And do you get people they just don't have the training?
We have people that just don't have the training, but we pay for training.
Okay.
I'm on 76th Street, so if anybody's looking, but we do train. We do pay for a CDA. They will pay for any education, and then you have the TEACH program. But I don't think a lot of people are aware of those programs, so they don't look into those programs. So if it was put out there, hey, the TEACH program will pay for you to go get a bachelor's degree.
Really?
Master's now.
Master's. Yeah. Okay.
Just open it up for master's.
I think a lot of people come in, and what I've also found is a lot of people have come and said, hey, I want to work in childcare, have never had the experience before. And I think, and I'm going to say this to all you directors out there, don't be scared to take a chance on it. Because I've had people that came in with no experience and they aced it. They are born naturals. Invest in your teachers. If you want quality teachers to give quality care, you have to invest in them.
Yeah, I like that. What do you say?
I would agree with you for sure. But I think the problem inner city is people don't know what they don't know. And that's a huge struggle and barrier. People don't know about the providers don't know about the teach program. Folks wanting to open up child care centers are not aware of, first and foremost, all of the requirements that the state has for us to become qualified child care providers. We've got DCF regulations, we've got Youngstar regulations, and with Youngstar comes tiers of education that you have to have. And I mean, in order to get funding, you have to have that education, and you have to have a lot of training before you walk in the doors. Minimal 6 courses that you have to be in a classroom alone with any amount of children. So some of us are, again, fortunate to have the know how and know what, and been in the field for a while. I train my staff also. I mean, in-house, I've taken the trainings to be able to train, and we also are training the community as well, because at the end of the day, these are all the children that we service. So, and we do oftentimes train folks up, and they go to the schools where they can get, more money, benefits, because some of us are not, a lot of small businesses or centers are not, cannot pay 401ks and health insurance and all those other things. So that is definitely an area of struggle, training staff and maintaining them once we can get them all trained up.
It's the pay, because don't be honest, teachers don't make a lot.
No.
At all.
No.
And I think if there was some type of grant where the federal government or the state would give initiatives to these employers that hire these teachers. We all know teachers in schools, teachers in childcare, they're the lowest paid profession.
For sure.
But guess what? We work harder than anybody.
And we building the brains. If we don't do a good job right here while they're in early care, it's a 99% chance they're going to suffer when they get to school. Yeah. We have the opportunity to attack those early interventions. We know if they're struggling with whatever, autism, whatever it is, whatever is going on, we can detect that and get this. And if we had funding, we could provide the services needed when they get to school. They're not in K-5 in first grade and they're like, oh, he is really struggling. He can't, like, oh, well, we noticed that, but we didn't have avenues to help because we pulling money from nowhere.
Yeah. The funding. Corrine, you still there?
Yeah. Yep, I'm here.
Yep. Your turn. I'm gonna tag you in. And I'm gonna go back to Joe.
All right.
Thank you too, ladies, by the way.
All right. So what I'm going to just bounce off what the other two ladies said is that, yes, we do have the Teach Scholarship, but there's a wait list again because it's underfunded. The only time we didn't have a wait list was when all of the federal funding was increased for the Child Care Development Block Grant while COVID was raging. And then our average wage is $13.66 an hour, and very few have benefits. So think about the kind of quality that you can recruit for $13.66 an hour, and then you're not able to continue to give them raises as they get the extra education and the extra experience to keep them. Because a lot of places, if your income is that low to start with, you know that within about 2 years, you're going to be making $20, $25 an hour. We make less than high schoolers. Wow. So that's a lot of the big problem. And we, like they were saying, we educate people and we get them trained, but 4 out of 6 of us with early childhood education, associates, bachelors, etc., are gone. We have left the field. We are no longer here. And as the crunches keep happening and as we're an aging group, as you lose your teachers with experience, when you hire those teachers who are inexperienced, they don't have the mentors available to help them learn how to interact and meet the needs of all the different children. And as we're coming out of COVID, people are blaming COVID on children having a lot of issues at 3 and 4. But I think the bigger piece is the fact that parents can't access care. And so what's been happening is they're finally finding regulated care for these kids when they're 3 and 4, and they've never actually interacted with other kids. Their parents have been struggling trying to keep things afloat by like bopping their children around between other people, trying to work nights and sleep while the kids are away, giving them tablets so that they can work on their computers and work from home. And so these children haven't really interacted with other people. So they're coming into these programs and all of a sudden they're around in a family childcare, 7 other kids, in a group center. They could be in a room with up to 20 other kids if there's 2 teachers. And so these kids are completely overwhelmed. And so now we're looking, is it an environment thing? Is it an actual disability? Is it anything like that that we need to, how do we address it? And so, yeah, funding is a big piece of it. And our budget is coming up. We are requesting $480 million to continue to help pay for teacher wages, because without this funding, our wages will actually likely be decreased, or programs are closed, or tuition will go up $30 to $40 to $50 a week per child. Parents already can't afford it. And then same thing, the Department of Public Instruction has a request to increase their funding for children with special needs. And that would allow the schools to do a better job of identifying and supporting kiddos that are 3 and 4 in our programs, have the therapists come to our programs and work with the children in our programs so that those kids aren't getting pulled out of environments and pulled into different ones and then having to come back, because we all know that kids who have a hard time with interactions and sensory and all that end up, having more interactions and fights and problems when they transition. So keeping them in the same one would also be helpful.
All right, yeah, that's real. I appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna come back and hear more from our crew about childcare and the importance of it and the importance of getting the funding for it. We're gonna be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, WNOV 860 106.5 FM. We'll be back.
Welcome back. We are Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We are back talking about childcare today.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and kick right in again here. How does the affordability of childcare impact working families?
The high cost of care.
Mm-hmm.
Child care is a percentage of income. Most parents, like if they're on subsidy, but they have a parent share.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my analogy is if they were on subsidy, they wouldn't need child. They would, if they weren't on subsidy or they made enough money, they wouldn't need it. And so now they have a parent share. And some of those people can't even afford to buy food. Mm-hmm. They really need it. They have 4 or 5 kids. So when you put a parent share in with that, and I know people pay for what they want, mm-hmm. but you have to look at your kid as an investment,
right?
And you're paying into their future. Also, a limited access to subsidies. It only certain amount of people only know, like when people come in for a tour and I ask them, is this private pay or is this subsidy? Oh, I'm not eligible for subsidy. I'm like, okay, well, in July, they just raised the income bracket. So you may want to go back and try to reapply because they've applied before and it's no.
Right.
They're off by $8.
Mm.
And then they got an infant, and you got to think about an infant is $400 a week. Who can afford $1,200 a month for childcare?
Yeah.
Even in a 2-parent home, who can afford that? That's a mortgage right there.
Yeah.
So it's either you have to, and that's why a lot of these kids get left at home because the parents can't afford the child care. They're not eating properly. They're not being taken care of. They got older siblings that they pulling out of school. You got to watch your brother or sister today. That's not fair to that kid.
Right.
So a lot of it is the income and the cost of child care.
And I'm going to also say that the cost of childcare, it's expensive to have children in a center, period. But parents on subsidies are already underneath the poverty guidelines, and that's unaffordable. But even the parents, like she said, 2-parent households, they're paying almost 12% of their income to have that's the average is what's out here right now. They're paying 12% of their income for their children to be at a child care center so that they can work. And if we even get into quality care, it's more expensive depending on your area. Like we try to stay at a medium range for the area, but at the same time, sometimes we're cheating ourselves as providers because we know that the parents can't afford it. So we do our best to try to supplement. But if we're supplementing, parents supplementing, again, it goes back to this investment that we need. Like, who is helping both sides?
Yeah. And then not to include, like, we're NACE certified. We're accredited. So our rates are going to be higher. And in order for this parent, they want the best for their children, but they can't afford a accredited center. So they have to settle for this one down the block or this one on the corner because they can't afford it.
Absolutely.
That's not fair to the kid.
Absolutely.
Everybody should have access to quality child care.
Yeah. Yeah. Corrine, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So across the state, child care basically costs more than your mortgage. So most people, mortgage is considered like 30% is affordable, and then you're paying another 30% in childcare if you have 2 kids. So you're already at 60% of your income. Another 20% is taxes. So now you're looking at you're in the hole and you haven't even bought food or have a vehicle or gas or any of those types of things. And the problem with that is, again, childcare is expensive because only one of us adults per so many children for good reason. And so what's happening is parents are having to pay way more than they can afford. 7% is what's considered affordable. And like they said, 14% is what parents are paying, but that's per child. And then the next piece is, yes, there is some funding for, it's called Wisconsin Share Subsidy. The amount has been increased for the percent of poverty for people to qualify. However, Milwaukee and Dane counties, the amount that the parents get is really close to what they charge. The rest of us get about half. So I have a parent, I'm 2 miles away from Dane County. I have a family on subsidy, and they're paying me about half of what I charge because the way our state does it is based off the average rate. And because I'm in a more rural county, my county's rural average rates are much lower. And so that's what the parents' maximum comes from. And so that has been changed at the federal level, and I have talked to Senator Mark Corrine, who's my senator, co-chair of the JFC, about how we can change the formula to make it more equal so that the parents aren't having to pay as much out of pocket, because if they need subsidy, like they were saying, you likely can't afford to live anyhow. But only 9% of families who qualify actually receive and utilize subsidy, because you have to find a place that can accept you, and then you have to find a place that you can afford the copay of. And so, again, it goes back to this broken model of relying solely on parents to be able to pay for 50 hours of care a week. So that's the other piece people forget. Kids aren't in care just for 40 hours. Their parents have to get to work and back from work, and they have a lunch break in there. So these kids are with us 50 hours a week. Parents are paying for care an additional 10 hours above and beyond what they get paid for to work. And so, like, just really looking at how we need to have, like every other country in the world does, they invest in early care and education. They invest in these kids in these early years. We are about $500 a child on average in our country. Most other countries, it's $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 per child. And they're seeing the difference. Like their kids are doing better. They have better health outcomes and all of that.
Yeah, fantastic. So it kind of leads into another question about what employers can do to really help foster early childhood education and development. What kind of some steps that for working parents can their employers do that would be helpful?
I can take this one.
Oh, okay. We'll let you go ahead, Corrine, and we'll come back to our guest in studio.
Yep. So I'm going to take this one because I'm in a lot of national groups and I've been working with a lot of different people to see what other states are doing. And employers could help by paying fair taxes, first off. Employers could also help by contributing towards a fund across the state that would then go towards paying higher amounts. Because when you talk about an employer in a spot, that doesn't increase our revenue. When you talk about an employer getting a tax credit, if they pay so much for their employees' children to go to childcare, you're making it completely unfair and a way for those corporations and employees who work for the most profitable businesses to gobble up all of the spots. And instead of like your nonprofits, your firefighters, your police officers, your sheriffs, none of them would qualify for these tax deductions, tax credits, because their employers don't actually pay into the tax system. And so what Vermont has done is they actually put some money in from their state budget because everyone benefits from childcare, as we talked about. And then the employers all pay a teeny tiny 0.05% payroll tax on what they pay all of their employees. And then they also have a part where the employee themselves actually pay a part of it. So Vermont has found that the employers are paying the whole thing because paying the accountant to split it costs more than what the parents were going to pay anyhow. And so mostly all of the employers are just paying this. And then that 0.5% goes into the pot. And now they're paying the per slot double what we were able to charge, what the market will bear. And so this past last April, it got implemented in July. As of February, the latest results from this, the data has shown that there's 1,000 more slots already because they can hire more teachers in Vermont. Vermont has fewer than 1 million people, so that would be like Wisconsin getting 10,000 more slots, just like that. They have opened up 40 new family child care programs, and they've opened up 50 new group centers, and there's over 300 new teachers that they've been able to hire, and they have not seen the turnover that there's been. So the employers need to be part of the conversation in advocating for funding so that all of us can access it, all the people in our community that the big businesses, small businesses rely on, have access to this care as well. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with the richest of the rich giving their kids and giving their employees the better opportunities, but then everything that those big businesses rely on in their community will fall apart and decrease access overall.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Ladies here in the studio, do you want to chime in at all?
Yeah, I was going to say what KinderCare does. One of our entities, we go into the workplace and we set up childcare centers, and the employers pay for that childcare for their employees. They also, I think that they should offer more flexible work arrangements where they modify the schedule to meet the needs. Well, we know we have to meet the needs of the business, but to help the parents out. Probably if they can work if they can work at home for 2 days out the week and come into the office 3 days a week, if they can do it hybrid, that would probably help the parents as well. They could set up flex accounts for childcare. We have places of business that offer 10% off for their employees, and I guess they eat up the cost for those employees, but they give us a code and we give them 10% off if their employer is a participant and that if they partnership with us. They can also work with other centers to provide backup care. Like when parents work different shifts, like second and third shift, because we know there's not a lot of third shift providers. It's not really a lot of second shift. And a lot of parents are not comfortable with sending their kids to spend the night overnight at a childcare center. Employers could say, hey, we're going to partnership with this center, or we're going to put a center in our facility where you can bring your kid and they can go here at night.
Right.
So,
yeah. Anything?
I was just going to say employers could support and advocacy as far as just I can't have anybody, no one can come to work if they don't have childcare, if they have children. So just understanding the magnitude of what it is we do for them and support us and elevating their voice, and funding would absolutely help. But that's not everybody. Can't always. Big businesses, I'm just thinking about small businesses, they can't always support financially, but elevating their voice, talking about the importance, understanding that folks can't work if they don't have a safe place for their child to go to.
And you had mentioned the kind of the shift work, shift work challenges that a lot of parents face. Second, third shift, they may work the night shift, and there's really not a lot of options available. How can we create more opportunity for early childhood development and childcare for those shifts? What can we do?
Increase funding for non-traditional hour care, incentives for provider to offer extended hours for those parents, and the employers would pick up some of that cost if they could. Expand resources. So one of the things that I'm planning on doing at my center is fair work week. I ask my employees, hey, would you rather work 4 days or 5 days? If you work the 4 days, you're going to do 10 hours a day, but that'll at least give you a day off during the week. That could possibly help with childcare. Just break it up into different hours for them to work.
Okay. Did you have anything, or Corrine, did you have anything to add on how we can help the shift work challenge?
Same thing. We need that investment, and then it would be helpful if employers would partner with people willing to do those extra hours to help their employees know that the programs exist. I know that a few child care programs tried to open during at various times, and they've tried to talk with and partner with employers who do have that first, second, third shift and let them know. And every one of them who has tried to do that with them, the employers have not been willing to be partners in that, and then they've stopped offering those hours, and then the employer is mad when they no longer offer those hours. It really needs to be seen as a partnership between us and parents and employers and other community members to say, hey, this is what we need to be successful and thrive as a community, and we need to invest and we need to work together and make sure it happens.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So what role does transportation play? And have you guys seen a lot of transportation issues and challenges? And maybe you could talk about those challenges and ways that you think that we could solve those.
I think with transportation, a lot of times it's the parent does not have a car to get back and forth. So they are stuck with choosing the daycare center that's down the street that may not be so good for them, but they have to put their kid there because they don't have any way to get them to and from. And then like with work, you have a parent that may be on a bus and she got 3 kids. She may have to drop one off at this school and bring the other 2 to us and then travel to work. So you're looking at a 3-hour bus ride if this parent doesn't have transportation. And after a while, the parent is going to be like, I can't do this. Like, I think that the state should come up with something. They used to do it a long time ago and they stopped it. They used to pay transportation companies to bring the kids to and from the child care centers. I don't know why they stopped it, but they did. They just probably took it out the budget. But that when they did that, it messed up a lot of parents because they just don't have the transportation.
Right.
And to go along with the transportation is the inability of getting car seats. So a lot of times you'll have a parent that drops and a different parent that picks up. So the family now needs 2 car seats because you're not going to leave the car seat and take them in and out all the time. Same thing if a grandparent has to pick up. So there are some counties, Greene County is actually one of them, where you can get car seats for a donation or for free if necessary. And because it is a necessity, because I have families that are driving 30 minutes to me and then turning around and driving 30 minutes back to their home community to get to work because there just isn't any care that they could find, either find that had the hours they needed, that was the quality they were looking for, or that they could afford. And so that, car seat seems like such a small thing, but it is a huge thing because you have to have a car seat for your child. And so really making sure that people and parents know about and donate to these different entities at the county level, at the city level, so parents can actually access car seats.
Fantastic. Brian, this is a pretty good conversation we got going on today.
I would agree, man. Look, I like listening to professionals. I haven't had to deal with childcare. I don't have any kids. So, this is all, I knew a lot about this because I got, friends, and I do want to shout out the person that did bring in Bianca and Corrine, Miss Kelly Melton. I've been knowing Kelly since I was a teen. So, seeing her go through her thing and, be an advocate for childcare. And I remember going to her opening of her daycare when she started hers. So she's still in the mix doing her thing as well in another space. But I guess I'm gonna go to number 12 then, right? Yeah, let's do it. How can affordable childcare help break the cycle of poverty for lower income families? That's for anybody. In studio first.
I'm gonna say if we start to invest in the return on, let me go to some statistics that I just testified about.
Okay.
But I want to say for every dollar invested in early child care, it's a $7 to $13 return educationally for the children. Now, if we invest in our children, and like I was speaking to earlier, those early intervention programs, it's better outcomes for the children. Children know more. They're excited about learning. They become passionate, and they go to college, get better jobs, and that break the cycle of poverty. I can almost attest to that verbatim right now. Like I am, even though I'm still in childcare, and I know if I did a lot of other things, I could probably make a lot more money, but I'm here because I'm passionate about it. But I came from poverty. I was a child who had assistance and with high quality care. My mother was shout out my mom. She was a child care provider since I can remember. And she got out of the system. She in turn opened up a child care center. Well, I did it for her back in the day, and that's how I got into the business. But I became an entrepreneur at the age of 18, just from having high quality care, I would say.
Yeah, that is real. I mean, look, a lot of folks in our beautiful city of ours, they follow the standards that was set before them, especially if you got somebody that's working something as passionate, as serious, child care. Who's next? We got Mr. Cole. What you say? You back behind that one in studio?
I would say increase parental workforce participation and economic stability. Enabling parents to work. Affordable childcare allows parents, especially single parents and mothers, to enter and remain in the workforce. Increasing family income and reducing reliance on public assistance.
Yeah.
We need to address the systematic barriers.
For sure.
And also improve child development and school readiness. Early learning opportunities. High quality childcare provides children with early learning experiences that enhance cognitive, social, and emotional development. Closing achievement gaps. Children from low income backgrounds often start in kindergarten behind their peers, and that's why I am so passionate about education. I just feel like our kids deserve the same education that the kids in the suburbs get. I stand on that 100%. And if we can do an early intervention, our kids will be better off and succeed in academics. And then long-term academic success. Children who attend quality childcare and preschool programs are more likely to perform well in school, graduate from high school, and attend college, increasing their chances of future economic success.
I like that. Thank you. All right, we're going to take a snag a break real quick.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Seeing y'all over there doing y'all thing. It was ready for break time. Right. We over here. Right.
We do the radio
y'all
hand
throwing up
signal.
sets on me real quick. Hold up, man. Hold up. That's outside the studio. Right. Yeah. So yeah, we go ahead and take a break. And then we'll come back. I guess follow up with that last one. See what Corrine has to say on that. Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll be back in a second. All right, we are back on Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, WNOV 860 106.5 FM. We have a caller. Oh, never mind. They hung up. All right, let's get back to the next question. Where we at? Go ahead, Joe. Tag me in.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tag you in. Right. How can you spoke a little bit about, we talked about training a little bit earlier, but how can we improve those training processes and have, better professional development for childcare providers?
The state has just opened up within the last year or so, where providers can train the 6 trainings. They're called the introduction courses. That was an absolute great support, and currently it is funded by the state pretty much. If we can continue that, which it probably won't happen if we don't get the funding that has been requested. But if those funds do come into place, stay in place, providers can train their staff in-house. Like, that's a huge deal. And we have been, even my center, we have been training folks almost every other day, creating a space in which you don't have to wait. Like Four Seasons, Milwaukee's kind of training hub, I would say, and there were a couple other spaces that do train, but you don't have to wait quarterly to get into a training. Like, by the second quarter, or if I miss this quarter, like it helps us get staff trained and in the classrooms and not have a huge waiting period, but it does come at a cost.
And also with that training, I just want to say, if anybody's looking to take training, if you go on the registry, those classes have been, one thing that I noticed they did do, they used to be $105, $130. They're only $25 now.
For sure.
And there's it's a blended course. It's online. And then you also do book work.
Yeah.
And you can get your classes.
What I was speaking to is the state has partnered with the registry, and I want to say I was a previous board director for the registry. So what they do is you can charge what you want to charge, up to $250, and up to $200, and the state will
reimburse.
Yep. So that's what we have been doing, and it's phenomenal. Like, it is a big help to get staff in and get folks into the field, and right then and there, like the way we train to our policies, but as well as what the state is requiring. And we have been able to get a couple staff members in and sustain them. When it comes to high quality care, you got to make sure that you are truly invested in this work and you are prepared to do this work for whatever it is that the pay scale looks like. And we find out early on if people are going to stay in the field with us being able to train those courses, I would say.
Yeah.
Corrine, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, and the courses were actually created with feedback from providers to like decide what is it we really need to be able to teach and support the people coming into the field in a better way than what was happening before. So I do want to say that Department of Children and Families underneath Governor Evers, because remember your governor appoints all of your secretaries, has changed and done a 180. It used to be very punitive. It felt like they were coming in looking to write you up, and like it didn't feel like we could talk to them to give feedback to try and improve things. And under Evers, Secretary Amundsen at first, and now Secretary Pirtle, they go out of their way to ask us for feedback. They go out of their way to come to our conferences and to meet with different groups of us, different groups of providers that are across the state and parents, and get that feedback of what can we do better, how can we support you better. And that has actually turned into there's fewer write-ups, fewer punitive things happening, and more support. And we are able to talk to our licensors and say, hey, I have something going on. Can you help me work my way through it instead of us hiding from them? And so that kind of all goes along with just the attitude of, the people in charge of you and our willingness to try and trust them and give that honest feedback has been tremendous. And then, but again, if we don't have the funding to keep these things going to make it affordable, we will not be able to even afford to hire new teachers when we lose a teacher. Same thing, the TEAP scholarship, now that we're back on wait list, that's going to have a significant detrimental impact on people's ability to move up to lead teachers and to move up to opening their own family child cares. Department of Children and Families also has, it's called a portal. It used to be you had to be regulated before you got a portal. And now if you're looking into starting a business, starting a group center or a family child care, you can request the portal, and then it gives you the information that you need, and it kind of helps you keep better track of where you are in the process, because it can take anywhere from 3 months to get certified and licensed as a family child care, or up to a year, depending on, again, the number of people that are able to support you and the funding that goes along with that. And even the licensors, we don't have enough licensors because there's not enough funding to pay for it. Our state relies 100% on federal block grant money. This even includes the licensors, the people who help support us get licensed. And so if that funding dries up from the federal level, which the way things are going, who knows how that's going to work, what's going to happen in our state? We already don't put any money in, and how are we going to replace that lost funding and still create a better?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Brian, do you want to take the last one here as we close up? I think we got about 5 minutes, 4 minutes.
We on the last one. All right, that's it. All right, man, you went quick today. Shout out to these questions. How can we improve the training and professional development of child care providers? How do you think federal and state governments can work together to improve? That's a serious one. How do you think federal and state governments can work together to improve child care access and affordability, ladies?
More grants, more training, more career programs for parents, offer incentives to employers to assist working families.
Invest. There has to be an investment from the state to sustain, let alone improve quality care. If we don't invest into early child care and not at this match, but really put money into, we need to be a line item in this next biannual budget, or it's going to be a drastic drop in care, quality care, unregulated care, if we continue how we have been.
And if you are a parent out there, you need to go to the state and advocate for policy changes.
Absolutely.
You have to advocate. You are your biggest advocate for your child. And if you want to see changes, you have to advocate, just like voting. You got to just do it. You got to get out there and advocate.
Legislators are waiting to hear from you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up with it's the Week of the Young Child, which is a week that across the nation, everyone is focusing on children from 0 to 8 and investments and ensuring access to high quality for everyone. So on that note, contact your federal representatives and ask them to increase funding for Child Care Development Block Grant or to sign on to the Child Care for Every Communities Act. I believe Senator Baldwin and Representative Pocan and Representative Moore have all signed on to both of those ideas. And then at the state level, we're in budget season right now. West Dallas, there was a great turnout. I know, Bianca, you were there. There's 2 more coming up in the end of the month, Wausau and Hayward. And then you can actually, if you can't make it though, you can submit your public commentary by going to the JSC budget website, which is legis.wisconsin.gov/topics/budget comments/submit-comments, or you can send an email to budgets.comments@legis.wi.gov. You can go onto the Wisconsin Early Childhood Action Needed Facebook group, and we have all kinds of templates and all kinds of other great resources for you. We have a live binder you can click on, and there's lots of great information you can download and talk to your providers and ask them what's going to happen if this funding doesn't come through, because you as parents need to know what's going to happen with your program. And those of us who operate child care programs, we need to be honest with our families and our wait lists and give them the opportunity to participate and do something about it.
Fantastic.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, ladies, we want to thank you, Bianca, Nicole, Corrine, for calling in and just being here in studio with us. You know, we know how important that is, and we're looking forward to seeing the success from all 3 of you, and much great, and blessings and success in future endeavors that you got coming up too as well. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. I think that was a nice show. Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. We want to thank all y'all for tuning in on this Monday. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Right?
Yep. Tomorrow, same place, same time.
All right. I have to make sure. All right. Y'all have a great one.